Hey everybody, it's Randy with Carchaeology, and I wanted to do a little walk around of the green Meyers Manx Dune Buggy that's behind me and tell you what's going on with it. Now, if you've watched my channel at all for any length of time, I'm sure you've seen some other videos on Meyers Manx buggies and some of the other fiberglass bodied cars that I've dealt with in the past. And it's something that is certainly red hot right now. The genuine Meyers Manx Dune Buggies are highly collectible. A lot of them are coming out of the woodwork, and people are trying to capitalize on the rising values of these historic cars. And there's little wonder why, because they really are an icon. They are something that is a part of automotive history. You can't look at this car and not smile. It is all about fun. And in our crazy world today, we need a lot more fun. So the Meyers Manx Buggy is a perfect car to take the blues and weirdness of the day away. You hop behind the wheel of one of these things, and it is instant stress relief. They are a blast. In any case, I wanted to do a walk around of this particular buggy right now because it is going up for sale. I've consigned this car with RM Sotheby's, the auction house, and it's a part of their upcoming online sale that starts this week on Wednesday, and it closes on June 1st. You can bid online at rmsotheby's.com, and it is a part of their auction that is called Sand Lots, which is all themed towards summer and fun and having a good time. And there is nothing that says that more than a green Meyers Manx Dune Buggy. In any case, this particular buggy is not just another Meyers Manx. This one is really special, and it's really special because it's an extremely early example. So the very first Meyers Manx Dune Buggies that were made were started in, I believe it was 1964 by Bruce. The first 12 of them were what they call a monocoque body, where the body and chassis were all molded fiberglass and the suspension components bolted up to that. And then from that point, he realized that that was too labor intensive, a little too difficult to deal with. And so he went to the Volkswagen chassis complete as the basis for the build. And the first 150 of those that were done were what is called a square tail Manx. So the difference between the square tail and what we see here, this trapezoid shape, is that on the square tail, this has just a little tiny square opening right over the engine. And it made tuning the carburetor very difficult, and so on and so forth. So it did need a bit of a redesign, but he did 150 of those cars, and that's right when the Manx madness really started firing up, and he needed to figure out ways to increase production. So he came up with what he called the Manx 1, which is this right here. Now, the square tail Manxes were all done with a hand-laid fiberglass. So if you look underneath a square tail car, you will see that the body is smooth. You'll see a bit of a mesh to it. And that was very labor intensive when it came down to the production of it, because the entire body was hand laid in fiberglass. But fiberglass technology was improving. The chopper gun was invented. That's where they would spray the fiberglass fibers into the mold themselves. It was a lot easier for them to crank out more of these with the chopper gun than doing the hand laid thing. But it took a little while for them to get the knack of it. And this particular car is one of the first chopper gun cars. So the body of this particular one is chopper gun laid. You can see this kind of rough texture to it right there. But the hood itself is actually still hand laid fiberglass. So if I stick the camera down up underneath here, you can see the bottom side of this. If you look real close, you can actually see that mesh material right there. And so that's the way that the square tail cars were done. The whole body would have been hand-laid mesh. This one being one of the first ones done with the chopper gun. They had figured out how to do the body, but they hadn't yet tried the chopper gun on the hood. This car, in the range of production, this is one of the very first of the Manx 1 bodies. So with 150 of the square tails being done, 12 of the monocoque cars, and then the very start of Manx 1, I estimate that this car is one of the first 175 or so Meyers Manx bodies ever built. Now, in the auction, they were hesitant to put a real low number there, so we actually put 200, which obviously isn't that much more, but it absolutely, without a doubt, has got to be one of the first 200 Meyers Manxes because of those attributes. Now, there's another detail that also dates this as being one of the very early cars, and that underneath here is these support tubes that run the length of the body. Now, on this particular car, these support tubes are much larger than the ones that you see on the production Manx 1. And the reason for that is that when Bruce was trying to figure out the best way to produce these cars, and he realized that the chopper gun body, or even the hand-laid fiberglass body, needed that support, he ended up finding some tubing. It was actually vacuum hose from swimming pools from a neighbor's yard, their shop, and he glassed those in. So if you look at square tail cars, you'll see the larger diameter hose here that runs down the length, and you'll also see that it might possibly be open at the front. So Bruce realized that if you leave that tubing open at the front, that dirt and mud and water and that sort of thing would get in there. And that's not necessarily a good thing. So on the main production cars of Manx 1 and then through Manx 2, all the production, even modern cars, this tubing is a smaller diameter and it is closed at the front. Now, if you look real close, let me see if I can zoom in here to that spot. Now, if you look inside that tube, you can actually see the remnants of the vacuum hose in there. So the little spiral wound wire that is through there, you can see that there. If you reach in there, you can actually get some little bits of plastic out from the hose that has deteriorated over time. That's a super early attribute, because all the ones after the production of this were done with a smaller tube. So in the research that I've done and in talking to the people that know much more than I do, there's only 3 cars that are known that have these particular attributes. And this is the only one that exists that's still in its original gel coat lime green. That's another fantastic detail on this particular car, is that it has not been restored. This is the original fiberglass finish, and you can see that it's in phenomenal shape. Now, it's not perfect. It has aged a little bit. There are a couple of little chips and scratches in it from use. There's a couple little tiny stress cracks here along the top, etc., etc. But it is legitimate original finish, which is almost unheard of when it comes to these early cars. So this car has definitely been indoors for most of its life, and it has been very well cared for. The color is still vibrant, it still shines very nicely, and it's a fantastic color. I mean, to me, lime green is the one to have. It's not super common, you don't see it out there a lot, but I don't think there is another color that is any more fun than this particular one. Other little early details on this particular buggy. Now, it does have the foil nose emblem. Now, this is something that was done on just the early cars, and when this car was authenticated by Winnie Meyers, she issued it the foil tag, which it definitely would have had when original. They call this a pre-tag car. It's before they started tagging everything, which started, I believe, in March of 1968. In any case, it was 67 or so when they started making the big plastic badge to go on there. We estimate that this car was actually built in the summer of 1966. So again, really early. Other original details, the fender lights here, these PMCO SAE 61 turn signals, kind of the Volkswagen style, but these were put on it when it was new. The headlights are original Dietz 820 headlights. They have the logo on the top. That's a detail that you should try to look for if you ever come across those particular headlights. Those are the ones to have if you're restoring an early Manx. It's got the Volkswagen gas tank in here, of course. It's got the small VW wipers. It's got this cool little fender mount mirror. And this car was based on a 1959 Volkswagen chassis. And it's super cool that it retains some of the original details from that 59, including the steering wheel, the clear needle speedometer, as well as the lighting in the rear. So these small glass lens taillights, the small license plate light, those are items that would have been on the donor Beetle. Now, engine-wise in this, it has been upgraded. This is a 1600cc dual-port engine. It's 12-volt electrics with an alternator, and it's an excellent runner. It's been really cleaned up and detailed nicely. We fitted a genuine Meyers Manx Sidewinder exhaust on it, which is great. We sourced some period California license plates with the 66 tag. This great "Let's Do It in the Dirt" tail or license plate frame on there is another cool little period touch. And it's rolling on widened steel VW wheels. So they would take the center out of the stock wheel, weld it into a wider hoop, both front and back. This was done. The fronts are done in a 14-inch, which was Bruce's favorite, to go with that on the front, and then the 15s in the back. And these are wrapped with a really nice set of General Grabber AT tires that have a really good rugged look to them. They're in excellent shape, and I understand that those are no longer available. It's getting harder and harder to find decent period tires for these particular buggies. Another nice detail of this one is the builder, when they did it, they actually did a support rod underneath the pan here and folded that under nicely. Adds a little more support to the body, and it's something that you see fairly often in the period stuff. It's got a Meyers Manx gear shift knob on it with the logo on it. Now, I redid the seats in this because when it came to us here at the lab, it had some really more modern off-road seats. And I chose these MP Roadster seats because they've got a nice period look to them. They're classy, they're comfy, they're adjustable forward and back. It's a great setup. And then I had a local upholstery shop match the stitching and seams and stuff to make a rear seat pad for it as well. It's got rubber matting in here, stock Volkswagen rubber mats, still stock shifter, and the stock VW switches and stuff. Looking back here, let's see if I can get the camera in there. You can see the Meyers Manx certification number. This is number 1413 or 1416 actually. And so it is on the Manx registry. It has been certified by Winnie Meyers as a genuine Meyers Manx. And when the certification was going on, since it had these early details, it really brought up some question. You know, it's not something that you see in a normal production Meyers Manx. So we talked to everybody in regards to that. We got input from a gentleman by the name of Nelson Sparks, who is, in my opinion, probably the biggest detail guru guy when it comes to the Meyers Manx production. Talked to Jim Chamberlain, that was involved with the builds of the cars back in the day and a very good friend of Bruce. We had photo documentation of some of the square tail cars that had the open tubes and things like that. And through all of that research and documentation, that's where we came up with it being most likely a summer of '66 build, and also one of 3 that are known with these details on there. So getting the certification from Winnie on it, as being that genuine early car, and then getting the information back from Nelson and the others that are the most knowledgeable about these cars was really an awesome thing. So in any case, that's the Meyers Manx, the 1966 Meyers Manx in lime green. And again, this is going up for bids. Now, I've sold a couple of other buggies at auction. It's not something that I do a lot, but the market is strong, and the rarity of this one made me decide that that's the best way to go. It's hard to put a value on a car like this because it is unique when it comes to its condition and rarity. So let's just let the bids set the value. So again, RM Sotheby's is the one that's auctioning this car off. Now, they have gotten a lot of press recently with the sale of the 300 SL coupe that sold for what was $142 million. This is one of two crazy Mercedes. This is the highest price ever paid for a car at auction, and it was through RM Sotheby's. So I'm totally stoked with the fact that they're going to represent this car. It's going to be a part of their Sandlot sale, and starting Wednesday, it is open for bids. Now, it'll be really interesting to see where this ends. Again, it is June 1st that the auction ends. The highest bid most likely will take the car. I did put a reserve on it. However, it's a really, really low reserve. And we'll just see where it goes. But I have no doubt at all that it's going to go past the reserve. How far past? Well, that's up to all the bidders involved. In any case, there you go, Meyers Manx rarity right here. This is my last little walk around before the auction starts, and it has been a pleasure and an honor to have this here, to have hands on it, to learn from it, and to bring it back to its glory once again. Super, super cool buggy, and it could be yours if the price is right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please subscribe if you haven't, and follow. I will follow up on the auction results once they are in.